Yeah, definitely. So I actually last year launched my clothing line. And so I started a reversible clothing line. It was kind of a travel line, but I mean, you can wear it in the summer, year round. And so it was a line of dresses, skirts, swimwear. I have jewelry now. And when I had started traveling years ago, I'd always thought, I'm like, always run out of outfits to wear on these trips. I wish reversible clothing existed. And so I decided to create that. And I started working on it a few years back. And then this year, when I had a lot more time on my hands, I was actually able to launch the line, put it out there. And yeah, now that's, to be honest, is what I spend a lot of my time doing. I still obviously do YouTube and everything, but more than 50% of my time is spent now on my clothing line. And so, like I was saying, with the ability to adapt and evolve, that also goes outside of YouTube as well. So when certain things hit, like a global pandemic, you need to have kind of other things up your sleeve, and versus just putting all your eggs in one basket, essentially.
Yeah, that's very cool, and it's great that you brought that up because that was something that I wanted to chat with you about, was just going this route of building essentially like your own brand, right? Like so many times we see creators like yourself, or other aspiring creators, they're so worried about like, let me partner with a brand so that I can get the money. But I think it's really cool what you're doing to be more entrepreneurial and kind of essentially take control of that because you already have like the direct relationship with your audience. And so why not just like actually own the product itself rather than like have to deal with a brand?
Yeah, definitely. And that's for sure the benefit of obviously having a bit of a following is it makes it a lot easier to launch a brand, and because you already have this big audience you can tap into versus someone just starting from scratch where most of their audience is going to come from ad dollars. For me, I have just kind of utilized my audience and marketing to them, and it was a great way to launch. And so I'm very grateful for that.
So what was the process like in terms of launching Livmore? Like what did you do? Like it's got to be like a lot of work to to start the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And for me, it took, I would say, around 2 years of development and learning everything. And I had actually almost launched this other product. And then I ended up scrapping that and deciding to launch what I had released back in August, which was I did satin reversible dresses and skirts. And like I said, it took about 2 years. And so for me, I started with, I had kind of tested at some manufacturers. I actually tested at a manufacturer in Bali when I was there 2 years ago. I got the samples back. They were horrible. They weren't good, not what I had wanted at all. And so I ended up working with a pattern maker in Vancouver. And I decided to kind of figure out exactly what I wanted. I got a perfect sample from them. And I just kind of tested the waters and tried out different manufacturers. It's a bit of an expensive process starting a clothing line because developmental costs, each sample will usually be around like a few $100 if you're getting a few samples and then you do a few rounds of that. So it can add up. But for me to actually have something now that's mine, I own it, it's amazing. And it's something I'm excited to grow into a really big thing one day, hopefully. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding as well.
Was this something that you could have imagined yourself doing when you were younger? Like, did you have kind of a bit of an entrepreneurial slant at all growing up?
I would, well, so my dad owns his own business. And so I obviously my entrepreneurial skills would come from seeing my dad own his business and everything. And I never thought necessarily about owning a clothing brand. That was something I was always interested in fashion. My YouTube career started in fashion. And so finding a way that I could mix my love for travel and my love for fashion was something that just worked out perfectly. I didn't really have that idea back in the day, but one day when I was making actually a YouTube video, I used to do these fashion hacks. And so I would make basically these fashion pieces, and I had made a wrap skirt one day and I was like, oh, this would actually be really smart if this was reversible. And that's kind of for me when the spark came, and I was like, okay, I should do this and kind of start developing it. And that's when the whole developmental process started. But yeah, so it was like, I never thought I would do this, but it kind of all worked out, which makes me feel like it was meant to be.
How did you learn how to like all the things that were necessary to build a business? I mean, I imagine you maybe just went to the University of YouTube or something to look up some things.
Yeah, it was a very slow process, to be honest. I did a bunch of different resources. I mean, I bought a book on it. I, at one point, bought a course on it to just kind of understand the process of how you launch a clothing line. And then the biggest thing with it is that you just have to take baby steps. You have to do one thing step by step. So the first one, it's like make a list of manufacturers you can possibly contact, ask them what their MOQ is, which is minimum order quantity, and learning all these things from just different resources. Google was really helpful. But yeah, learning all that took about 2 years. It was a slow process. You can definitely do it a lot quicker. Now that I know everything that I do, I would say you could take a product idea and get it to market in about 6 months, but a lot of it is learning. And so I tried to lean on resources as well, people who had started clothing lines, but you kind of get tidbits from everyone and then you have to piece it together and then you actually have to take the action to make it happen.
Yeah, I'm serious. This is so cool that you've been able to do that. I mean, again, like this is not something I think it's you're probably very early on this. Like this is something we're probably going to see more creators like yourself do. But it's entrepreneurship is hard. It's not easy to
It's really
start a
hard.
business.
Yeah. A lot of
What
ups and downs.
Yeah, so what's been like the biggest challenge for you in that whole experience?
I'm like, where do I start? I honestly, every step of the way, there has been a new challenge from working with the manufacturers. I find the biggest challenge I've had is, I guess, communication issues, you could say, because one thing I always try and tell people who are wanting to start any sort of product is that you need to be so painfully specific with what you want, because you can never assume, because anytime you assume, it's always the opposite of what you assume they would do. So for example, if you wanted a strap, like a normal strap, say of a dress, goes over and has a clasps in the back, they'll add some sort of weird tie to it, or like just do something to it that you're like, why? I don't even understand. And so having something as clear as possible written out is the biggest thing I recommend for people when starting any sort of product or clothing line or whatever, because that's been such a big challenge for me, is just getting, I think, products kind of the way they're supposed to be. You'll end up doing a bunch of samples and that can be a huge headache. But I mean, when you finally get the final product, it's very, very rewarding. But everything up till then can be a bit frustrating.
Well, and then another thing too, like when I looked up your brand, right, I noticed that, you know, you're killing like multiple birds with like the same stone in the sense of your marketing and promotion, right? Like you mentioned, you've already built an audience, so there's already like a built-in market for that you could sell to. But then at the same time, you've built relationships through collaborations and just meeting other travel vloggers. I noticed that a lot of like your models in some of your photos on Instagram are like probably friends of yours who are also influencers. So you're probably like also just, hey, I could give you some product, maybe you could post about it. And is that kind of like how your marketing for this business goes for the most part?
Yeah, I'm very lucky that I have a lot of great, lovely women in my life who have been so kind and supportive with everything. So all the photos you essentially see on the website and everything, most of them, I'd say like 95% of them are all my friends. And everyone I find is very supportive in the influencing community, content creation community. People don't like the term influencer, so we'll call them content creators. But yeah, so that's definitely the plus side as well of being in the industry, is that because you have those connections, then you're able to actually send people product and do a lot of influencer marketing, because that's a huge help in getting your brand out there. And so from now, I've been focusing on basically all influencer marketing. I'm going to kind of this year branch more into ads, because I find that's really beneficial in scaling your business. But to start off, having those people who I could send product to and they were more than willing to post was really nice.
That's very cool. Yeah. Again, I think, I mean, a lot of people will probably, apply to go to business school and spend a lot of money on tuition, but you're just going through like the school of hard knocks here, just learning it as you go. But
Exactly.
even if you lose money, like in investment to start up the business, it's still it's like paying a tuition regardless, right? Like you're still learning something from the experience if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too also, I firmly believe that with the right marketing, any brand can succeed. If you have a decent product and you have good marketing, that there's essentially no chance of failing. Because the thing is, if you keep working at something and you really plug away, I really believe that people can do anything that they set their mind to. And so with that mentality, it's like, how could it fail?
Hey there, thank you so much for watching this excerpt of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. If you're a content creator that struggles to organize scripture ideas for your videos, I've got a resource for you. You can get a copy of our free script template. Using it can help you structure your videos and save you hours of time from filming in the process. To get it, all you have to do is just scroll down on this video, find the link in the description, and subscribe to our email list. From there, it'll get delivered straight to your inbox right after you sign up. And by the way, if you're enjoying these videos, can you do us just a quick favor and hit the like button before you go? And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel too, to stay up to date with all the content that we're creating here on this channel. And finally, be sure to tune into the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We've got links in the description down below. If you want to watch or listen to the full episode, just tap the video right next to me over here, and that'll take you to the entire episode in which this excerpt is from. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.